Okay, so let's jump right into it today. We're going to be taking a look at how these new EU tariffs are impacting Tesla right now.
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah, and to really wrap our heads around this, we're going all the way back to the basics with Adam Smith and the Wealth of Nations,
Oh, yeah, classic.
which is actually a book that Elon Musk himself has recommended.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So our goal is to kind of use this to understand the bigger picture economics at play and what it could mean for the entire EV market and for Tesla this year.
It's really interesting because we're talking about this very current event. These EU tariffs on imported electric vehicles literally went into effect today.
Yeah, crazy.
And we're going back to some really fundamental economic theory to try to make sense of it.
It's such a foundational book, too, right? The Wealth of Nations came out in 1776.
I mean, think about that. That's like the birth of modern economics, and it's still relevant today.
Yeah, totally. So
Mhm.
Smith's main idea is that free markets, and especially free trade, are what really drive prosperity.
Right. He argued that when you have this open flow of goods across borders, you get more efficiency, you get specialization, you get more wealth for everyone.
And he talks specifically about tariffs.
He does. There are entire chapters in The Wealth of Nations that go deep on these restrictions on import, like of restraints upon the importation.
Perfect. So how does all of that apply to Tesla today?
Well, the EU just slapped this 25% tariff on imported EVs.
Yeah, pretty huge number.
And analysts are saying this could push the price of a Tesla Model 3 in Europe up by like 15%.
Ooh, that's going to hurt some buyers.
For sure. And if you look at Tesla's sales, about 20% of them are in Europe.
Wow, so that's a big chunk of their market.
It is. And, doing some back of the envelope math, we're looking at a potential cost to Tesla of almost $2 billion a year.
Yeah, that's not insignificant.
No, it's not. So the question becomes, what does Elon Musk do?
Right. What are his options?
Well, there are rumors that he might shift production, maybe even move some manufacturing to China.
Interesting to kind of get around those tariffs.
Exactly. Or he could just bite the bullet and raise prices for European customers.
Yeah, I mean, both of those options have downsides, right?
They do. I mean, shifting production is a huge undertaking, and raising prices could really hurt sales.
Not to mention the EU could retaliate and slap tariffs on other U.S. tech exports.
Right. It's a really complex situation, and this all kind of goes back to Smith's idea of the benefits of global trade.
It's almost like this case study right out of the Wealth of Nations.
It really is. And when you zoom out and look at the entire EV market, the picture gets even bigger.
How so?
Well, some estimates are saying that the total burden from these tariffs could be around $30 billion for the whole EV sector in 2025.
Oh, wow, that's a massive number.
Yeah, so this pressure could actually end up driving a wave of innovation.
Do you think so?
It's possible, right? Maybe companies like Tesla double down on battery technology to cut costs. Or maybe they start developing entirely new, more affordable EV models that can compete even with these added tariffs.
It's amazing to think about Elon Musk actually being a fan of the Wealth of Nations.
I know, right? It kind of makes you wonder how much of Smith's thinking is baked into Tesla's strategy.
Especially since he's mentioned the book on X before, so he's clearly read it.
Exactly. And if he decides to shift production, it would be a pretty smart move right away to adapt and stay ahead of the curve.
Absolutely, a very pragmatic response to these new challenges.
And this is all unfolding in real time, too. There are tons of people on X debating what Tesla's next move should be.
I bet it's a pretty heated discussion.
It is. Some people are praising Musk's adaptability. Others are worried about the potential impact on EV prices for consumers.
I mean, it makes sense. It's a really complex issue.
And it really highlights this tension between the global tech industry and these kinds of trade restrictions.
It's a theme we've seen before on this show too, right?
Definitely. It kind of reminds me of when we talked about Apple and tariffs, or that deep dive on SpaceX and international regulations.
Exactly. So what's the takeaway here? What should our listeners be thinking about?
Well, I think the main point is that these EU tariffs are a major challenge for Tesla.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
They're forcing the company to make some tough choices about how they produce and price their vehicles and to understand the long-term implications of all of this.
Adam Smith and the Wealth of Nations gives us a really useful framework.
It does. It helps us see how these kinds of trade barriers can ripple through the entire global economy.
And it leaves us with a really interesting question to ponder. Doesn't it What unexpected strategies might Tesla come up with this year to navigate these tariffs and stay on top of the EV market?
Right, we know Elon Musk is an innovator. He's not afraid to shake things up. So what kind of creative solutions might he have up his sleeve?
Maybe something totally out of left field that we haven't even considered.
That's what makes this so exciting. It's a real-world economic puzzle playing out right before our eyes.
Absolutely, and we'll be watching closely to see what happens next.
I can't wait to see what Tesla does.
You too. This is far from over.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of tariffs and electric vehicles.
It was a pleasure being here.
Until next time, stay curious. And keep learning.